On 5.
A pleasant good afternoon to all our viewers. Today we are here again on Grenada Matters, as it really does matter. We do have with us special guest Miss Kalistra Faria, who is no stranger to local, regional, and international media. Of course, my co-host is here with us today, Mr. Ingram Jones. A blessed good afternoon to both of you.
Thank you, Earl.
All right, thank you.
Good
Ingram,
afternoon.
good afternoon. How is England at the moment?
England is okay. It's very cold. Very, very cold at the moment. I wish I was in Grenada just for the heat. Just for the heat. Not for the bacchanal, but for the heat.
Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. Miss Faria, how are you? I mean, despite all the conditions that we have to face in Grenada, how are you doing on this wonderful Monday afternoon?
Well, I'm doing good, Earl. With Grenada, if we stand with her through thick and thin. No matter the punches that are thrown at us as citizens, Grenadians are notorious for standing with the nation. And I do the same. I continue to do the best I can as a journalist and to look after my boys, Archer and Zizi. It's all about them and what kind of country they're going to inherit. But generally we're doing fine. Fingers crossed about the economic hardship that's on the way. But hanging in there.
Yes, yes, of course. And that is all we can do, hang in there. Despite all the corrupt events that one would face in a country that should be, that has been promoted to be so lovely. I would like to compliment you, Miss Faria, and thank you for being a guest on the show. We are expecting Mr. Terence Forrester, who should be joining us shortly. I'd like to thank you for having a voice, for giving a lot of victims a voice in Grenada, because today we are discussing the importance of civil disobedience. This is part 2 of last week's show. In a time where, and you are so appropriate for the show, in a time where citizens like yourself and myself, law abiding, tax-paying citizens, would have exhausted so many legal offices, constitutional offices as well, to try to pursue justice, but we have been refused. Beginning with um, that unfortunate situation that you would have faced at the Mount Rush in St. George there, where you were assaulted by some persons who are politically affiliated with the current government, and then seeing that you have been assaulted in Parliament by a minister. It is very unfortunate, Miss Faria, and we would like you to just give us an insight to those despicable events that happened to you as a Grenadian woman.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, the assaults took place at the government headquarters ministerial complex, or not the parliament. But it's been a long road when it comes to those kinds of attacks by political operatives. They've made a point of coming after me, and I would say this without any concern about being accused of being a conspiracy theorist. They have with physical assaults, with slander. I mean, the slander has been, had I not been such a strong person, I would buckle under the slander by now. Deliberate, precise strikes, with total lies, a lot of slander, You know, unfortunately, they've done it in such a way that I have never had the opportunity to take legal action against some of the worst slander that has happened. Quite frankly, you know, from the highest office, excluding the head of state, who is the governor general, excluding the governor general's office, from the next highest office, come right down to the man on the street who has his hand out waiting for a piece of plywood from this government. Am I on, Earl? Because I see my thing
Yes.
spinning. A lot of internet problems.
Yes,
I've
you are
had
here.
and then the problem was compounded, as you said, the Mount Rush issue in 2017. In 2017, when Fabian Bowen and Oswald Gilbert felt so empowered, so entitled, that they attacked a journalist, and not just an unknown journalist, but a journalist who is widely known in Grenada and who's worked in the Caribbean. You know, for a long time, I was the voice and the face of Caribbean Update regional news in the region. I've also worked in the United States as a journalist. And they weren't afraid to come after me like that. And one may say it was in the heat of the election, but I didn't hear of them attacking anybody else during the heat of the election. So I have no choice but to assume that they did it because of the voice that I bring to the table. And then, of course, the incident at hand now, which is, well, of course, the prosecution took the first opportunity they could find to have that matter thrown out. You know, the prosecution, you know, cases are commissioner of police versus the defendant. And when that matter came up, due to my lateness getting to my tardiness getting to the court, the prosecutor did not do what is normally done, which was ask for the matter to be stood down for a few minutes and to get in contact with me, because they were well able to do so. They had my contact information. They didn't call me to find out. Instead, the prosecutor stood up in the court and told the magistrate outright, lied to the magistrate, and said that he believes I don't have an interest in pursuing that matter. And so that case was, the criminal case was thrown out. I think my lawyer is supposed to be still working on the civil aspect of it. You know, COVID got in the way of a lot of things. But now we come to the incident where the Minister of Government did this.
And Ms. Faria, if I may just interject for a second. Now, that case, that particular case where you were assaulted at Mount Rush by NNP operatives, I would like to make it clear to the viewers and the listeners that the case was thrown out on the first day that there was a hearing. It was thrown out on the first day. As Ms. Faria said, the prosecution, who was supposed to represent Ms. Faria as the virtual complainant, as the witness, they did not do so. The police prosecution, and of course, the police are employees of the state, and the government is the head of the state. The magistrate or the judge would also be employed by the state. And it sends a really bad message that persons who try to attain that justice, even in our courthouses, they are refused that justice. I am aware of so many minor cases where individuals would have been sent to prison on remand for such things. Also, if it was a simple, let us say, a less grievous assault or even violation of whatever law, it would have been dragged on for 10 years. There are many cases where persons have to continue going to court for long periods because the prosecution is saying that we need to send a clear message that crime should not be accepted here in Grenada, but not in the case of Ms. Kalisha Faria, who was assaulted. I just wanted to get that in there, Ms. Faria, so the
Well, yeah,
audience can judge for themselves.
Yeah, you know, they dispensed with the matter in a most offensive manner as quickly as they could. And I will say here plainly that they did it deliberately. They did it because of who was involved on both sides of it. You know, I am convinced, and I've always said that the actions of the prosecutor in the court that day was politically motivated. It's also an indication of the state of things in this country. In how our institutions have been so poisoned and corrupted by the message that's being sent by the New National Party government. I don't believe that had it been a different party in power at the time, first, I don't think I would have been assaulted, and second, I don't think that the prosecutors would have just taken justice and you know, throw it up like that and throw it out the window the way that they did. I found it, you know, frightening and very offensive. In fact, you know, it was a sad day for justice in our country. The matter being tried and me losing is one thing, but doing that, you know, they did not even try to hide what they were up to by doing that. And up to today, I tried to get answers, and up to today, I still have not been able to get answers about what happened and why this happened. You know, I took this up to the highest level, the office of the Commissioner of Police, and, you know, another office that is a major disappointment to me, the office of the Commissioner of Police. And I feel like, you know, the situation has gotten worse since Edwin Martin became the Commissioner of Police, which is surprising because I had such high hopes for the police force when he took over. But, you know, there were some things I didn't understand and some things I didn't know when I felt this confidence with him coming in, you know. So the police totally out of control, out of bounds, doing whatever they want. You know, I'll get back to my other matter in a second, but let me just make the point that I covered, you know, the doctor, Timothy McKinney and Amy Baxter, the two people who came and with this usual sense of entitlement, you know, marched across the south of the island, trying to create worsen the COVID-19 pandemic for us. They were tried about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago in the court, and I saw the same kind of disgusting practice on the part of the prosecution. That they, from the minute the case started, it was obvious to me, having witnessed a lot of trials in the High Court and the Low Court, it was obvious to me that the prosecution wanted these people to get as light a sentence as possible. I have never seen a case, except for my matter, which was just thrown out without even bothering. I have never seen a case more badly represented by the prosecution. They were practically on the defense side. They failed to present all of the aggravating circumstances of what these two people did. There was no emphasis placed on the fact that the man is a doctor, a medical doctor. There was no emphasis placed on the fact that several businesses lost quite possibly thousands of dollars as a result of having to be closed because of what they did. There was no mention that about 39 or 40 people had their lives disrupted by having to go into quarantine, living in fear for days, wondering if they caught the dreaded COVID. You know, just the fear alone that descended on the nation because of what they did. None of this was outlined and presented and put on the record by the prosecution. In fact, they made more meat out of the explanation given, the ridiculous explanation given by Dr. McKinney, that he had received a text message from the ministry, from the Ministry of Health officials, saying that he was negative. Now, it eventually came out in court that what he did, because he was so well connected, he was able to call a friend and ask this friend to contact the lab to unofficially get the results for him, because apparently he had a film festival benefit event to go to. So, I mean, who wants to stay in quarantine when we've got a benefit event to go to? I mean, you know, what does it matter if we get 100,000 people infected? We have a benefit to go to. So they were given test results from the day they arrived in Grenada. The 4th day test results, which is what they needed to be told you're clear or not clear, that's not what they received. So if in fact this happened, and the Minister of Health said it didn't happen, but with him you could never tell, received the wrong results, they claim, and so they thought they were negative because the first test they did was negative. It turns out after 4 days, the virus showed up in their system, and it turned out they were positive. But the prosecution presented that as part of their main evidence, instead of all of the harm and aggravation that these people caused by their action. And I was surprised. The prosecution put on a case that was 10 minutes in duration. The defense lawyer, Ambassador Ali Gill, went on for about 45 minutes in the courtroom, on and on about what great philanthropists they are, and they're going to be building a hospital. By the way, a hospital that I understand Nicholas Steele, the Minister of Health, is their business partner of Dr. Timothy McKinney. And what I learned afterwards was that the Minister of Health and Dr. McKinney are friends. They know each other from way back. And I wondered if that had anything to do with the fact that when the man arrived on the airport, he decided, I am using my own BMW, because his driver came in his BMW to pick him up. And you know, from the time he got into his own vehicle, they needed to dispatch police and health officials to his home to put him in state-approved quarantine, because part of the calls is that you must use designated transport. And already there, he broke the rules. But he was allowed to break the rule then. And he was allowed to leave the airport without a tracking device, get in his own vehicle. So I'm not surprised that he decided that I was going to go on a spree, 4 restaurants in less than 24 hours across the South, that I would go on a spree. I don't have to follow the rules because I am Dr. Timothy McKinney. And he got away with this. And the prosecution helped them to get away with it because they pleaded guilty, mind you. And so an automatic 1/3, as you know, Earl, had to be taken off from their sentence based on the sentencing guidelines for pleading guilty at the earliest opportunity, right? So you can't argue with that. But they also got a break because the Ministry of Health was blamed, and so the court decided it wasn't their fault. That this happened, that they misunderstood. They got a break because the lawyer said that they are great philanthropists, and then they got a break because they pleaded guilty. And at the end of the day, they were charged 50% of what the maximum fine is, which is $5,000. Now, I believe, had the prosecution done their job and presented the weight of the crime of the illegal act that they committed, that the magistrate may have charged them $7,000 or $8,000 with just the benefit of the guilty plea weighing in on the sentence. But
no, you know, if I may just cut you for a second, seeing that you have just educated us as to the role of Minister Nicholas Steele, being a business partner to someone who is trying to open a hospital. To me, it would seem as though that is a conflict of interest, one that the laws of Grenada forbid. It also says to me that most likely that is why the conditions of the hospital are in shambles. That is why they might be terrible. But then again, that is my opinion. And please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, Grenada is like a fairy tale place that only happens in your imagination. But so the system, you know, I said all of that to say that the system is not working well because of the humans involved in making the system work. You know, a lot of our laws and the Constitution are flawed, but if the humans involved in making things work would do the right thing, would act with integrity and be ethical, a lot of the problems that we have, we will not suffer. A lot of it has to do with the bad character of the people who are minding the store. Okay, a lot of bad character running around. And you know, I wish that we were less blessed with beautiful scenery and more blessed with people of good character. Our problems would be much, much less, is my opinion. So, you know, Earl, and one of the things, of course, coming up now, Winston Garuway decides he's going to shove me down last September, because after Clarice Modest-Cowan agreed to give me an interview, he decided that he did not want me. You know, they always worry about me doing one-on-one interviews. They always worry about me doing interviews in a setting where I cannot be controlled. And And I'm not sure what he feared, because Clarice Modeste Cowan knew me since I was a child. She's an experienced minister. She's been there for quite a while, and we on the surface have a very normal relationship. Please don't do that. Actually, being noisy. Have a very normal relationship, and so she's known me as a journalist for a long time, and she had no fear facing me and speaking to me. But he felt different, and he decided to get physical about stopping me. As you know, that photograph of me on the ground with him standing menacingly over me, that went viral, and everybody saw that. And of course, the NNP administration, in true form and fashion, decided to announce that they had their own investigation, and quote, nothing happened. So they love to say nothing happened, or just give a totally different version despite the facts. Like in the Grenada situation, when we lost so terribly in the court, and stuck with having to pay $200 million when we wanted to pay $30 million for Grenada, and they came and announced to the country that we won, and we didn't win. We lost, and we lost terribly. We now have a bill of $200 million with Grenada. And they do that. So what's his name there? Simon Steele decided to say that nothing had happened. Usurping the court's authority, getting ahead of themselves and taking over the role of the criminal justice system by announcing this. Of course, people didn't really bother with them except for the fanatic NNP supporters. And in every organization, you have those people who will deny even while the evidence is covering their faces. So,
Miss Faria, we have some persons who are abroad, some international viewers, and I don't believe that they would be aware of who Mr. Winston Garuway is, the gentleman that pushed you to the ground. Could you, whilst I get the picture to put up on this program, could you just give people?
Sure, no problem. Senator Winston Garuway, a member of the government. He sits in the upper house as a senator. He's not an elected member of parliament. He's an appointed senator. At the time, he was the Minister for Information, Minister of State for Information, Junior Minister of Information. He's since been moved to the Prime Minister's office. Yeah, that's a famous photo. He now has responsibility for disaster management. I think that might be his only portfolio at the moment, and something to do with solid waste as well, is what he's doing now. But he's in the Prime Minister's ministry. And that one thing I want to say here, though, Earl, is that what I found interesting, every year the Prime Minister goes to town. Just give me 1 second, Earl. Zizi, you're going to have to
no problem.
You're going to have to turn the volume down on the device, Zizi. Thank you. Sorry about that. But the Prime Minister, interestingly, last December, he usually goes to town by himself with his security guard, does his security team, does the tour, go visit the business people and so on. But interestingly, last Christmas, he took Garuway with him. And I took that as the Prime Minister trying to send a message, just weeks after this man assaulted a journalist, that he was trying to send a message that he had no problems with Garuway, that he has him firmly at his side. So he didn't discipline him. He moved him to his ministry, to the Prime Minister's ministry from where he was before, and took him on a tour of St. George's with him for the Christmas holidays. And that for me sent a message about where the Prime Minister stands on violence against women, where he stands against attacks on press freedom. It sent a clear message to me, and I don't think anything is going to change that. But the Prime Minister had no problem with what Winston Garuway was accused of, and he was not even trying to say to the nation, well, I'm uncomfortable with this at all. So here we are now, the incident happened, and of course there were media people in the room, including the president of the Media Workers Association, Sherry and Noel, and Gerard Joseph, who was there as a reporter for GBN. Now, he saw what happened. He took video of what happened. And when I telephoned GBN the same day, and they said yes, they one senior staff member said yes, they had video of it. But it turns out GBN then hid the video. And days later, they told me I needed to write a letter in order to get a copy of it. And then days later, at the management level, Managing Director Odette Campbell, in her own infinite wisdom and deliberate judgment, decided that the tape was going to not be available anymore, that the tape would all of a sudden never have existed. And so they denied its existence after that. And an actual videotape of what happened was never made available to the investigators, and it was never made available to me, and they never carried a story on the incident at the time that it happened. Eventually they did, and of course they did it in a manner that would save face for the minister, which was not surprising, of course. So it happened. He pushed me, I fell, I hurt my hip. And even when, the police took about 3 months to finally bring this matter to court. Our statute of limitation of these matters is 3 months. So they actually sent a summons. They actually sent a summons. Am I on? It's going on. They actually sent a summons. You're on. Oh, all right. They actually sent a summons to me about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days before. They actually laid the charges against him, sorry, about 4 or 5 days before statute bar. And that was because I walked up and down. You were very helpful with that, Earl, in helping me to push to ensure that the police did their job and didn't just let the clock run out on this case and then tell me, legally we can't charge him anymore. And I believe that that's what they were heading for, because an investigation like that, it took them almost 3 months to decide, fine, we're gonna charge him.
Yeah.
And so he was charged last year, but then the COVID lockdown prevented the matter from going through the court system. And so this Thursday, I just received a summons today. The police officer, a very nice guy who came by to drop the summons to me, said that he already delivered Garuway's summons to him. Now, they didn't arrest him, of course, and they also provided medical information, which said that harm was caused to me. So I give them medical document for causing harm, and there's also the assault matter, but they only chose to charge him for simple assault and summons him, so no arrest or anything like that, and 1 charge missing. So already there I'm seeing the decks being stacked in a particular way that is making me uncomfortable about where they're planning to go with this. But on Thursday at 9 a.m., Senator Winston Garuway's trial for what he did to me will take place in the magistrate court. I believe it's in the number 1 magistrate court that it will come up. And of course, my expectation, my expectation always is that people will do the right thing. And I'm hoping that the police prosecution will do the right thing and put on the best possible case that they can put on. Now, the witnesses include the police witnesses that they have, apart from me as a virtual complainant, are Gerald Joseph and Sherry Noel. But both have maintained that while they were in the room, because the Minister of Legal Affairs was in the room and a whole bunch of media people, Colin Campbell, Sherry and Noel, Gerald Joseph, and a few other people. Interestingly, media people who are supposed to be observant and always notice what is going on around them, they all said that they did not see anything. And I understand why. Not many people are as fearless as I am. So I understand why they said they saw nothing. But interestingly, the police have still listed them as witnesses for the commissioner, the case of the commissioner of police.
Could I ask, in the picture right here, could you confirm that it's you on the ground there? That is Senator Winston Gary standing over you. And isn't that lady in the blue skirt behind the chair? Isn't that Miss Philomena Robertson, the press secretary for the Prime Minister?
The press secretary. That's Philomena Robinson, the press secretary there, and the lady in pink in the door who's hiding her face against from what she's seen. That's Clarice Modest Conway, whom I was attempting to interview, who had agreed to give me an interview when this happened. They all deny that nothing happened, right? But look at Garuway's hand. Look at Garuway's hand, or the way he has it over me. I mean, his demeanor tells you clearly what happened. And look at Clarice Modest in the doorway. She's turned away and shielding her eyes.
Yeah, yeah,
That kind of reaction does not happen if nothing is happening. So they all saw it, and they
yeah.
all chose to deny that it happened. Obviously, it was a serious thing, a minister of government pushing down a journalist.
Uh-huh.
But what is interesting, the brazen nature of these people, that they would see this happen and still, with all the evidence, still deny it. The brazen nature of them, the press secretary. I mean, Philomena Robinson, being a frontline journalist years ago, such a big disappointment to me.
Uh-huh.
A $10,000 salary, I guess, is a big deal that you don't want to lose. But
And
you give up
I
your
I'm a
integrity
bit
for the
confused.
people.
I'm a bit confused as to why Miss Robertson was not a witness as well, as she was right there. I mean, looking at the picture, we can see that she's looking directly. It appears, based on the angle that I'm seeing here, right? And let me just pull it up. It appears that she's looking directly at the both of y'all, unless she is blind or probably her eyes are closed. But based on what I'm seeing here, to me, she's looking directly at the situation as it unfolded. She has not been summoned to be a witness.
She has not been summoned, neither Colin Campbell. And that photograph was taken by Colin Campbell from the angle. He was the only reporter on that side of the room to be able
Uh-huh.
to get that shot, right? But
Uh-huh.
he said he had no he said he had no photographs. I mean, this was put out just minutes after the incident happened. But he denied having any video. He denied having any photographs, and he also denied seeing what happened. So
Uh-huh.
you know, even the media um,
Uh-huh.
enables what's happening in the
Uh-huh.
country, and so you understand what is happening to our people when even the media, the last line of defense, well, the line of defense before the last one, because the people and their desire for and the desire for a better life, who would use their right to civil disobedience. This, of course, is the last line of defense. Grenadians taking to the streets is the last line of defense. But just before that, you have the media, and they have given up that line. They are no longer holding the line, and the incidents with me
Yeah.
show that they are no longer holding the line. And once the media stops holding the line, it is up to the
Mhm.
people, because the information
Oh,
that the people need to get to make a decision, they're not getting it because the media is watering down things. They're choosing what they want to report, and it is a frightening situation, and it is what
it is.
happens
It
when you're
is.
living in a dictatorship.
It is very scary, and this is why we actually utilize social media to get the truth across to the people who are actually interested in the truth. The thing is, Miss Faria, Ingram Jones here with us. He is actually a journalist as well. Ingram, how do you feel about listening to this?
It's pretty disgusting, but not only that it's disgusting, it just seems like it's just the way, the norm in Grenada. Just the norm.
Mhm.
Just to be abusive and to be lack character, to lack integrity, arrogance, ignorance, just an ungodly set of people,
Mhm.
to be honest. And this has been carrying on for ages. And the people in Grenada allow it to continue. The government are there to serve the people. You understand? But the people seem to feel, or a lot of the people in the island seem to feel that this behavior is acceptable. Or you turn a blind eye and you say, hey, it's not me. It's not bothering me. It's not my business. I'm going to stay in my corner until a situation happens where
Mhm.
they have to face this nonsense. And
You,
then
you, mhm.
different situation. So the attitude on the island, it seems that, look, I'll keep myself to myself and everything's going to be okay.
And
And
this
I'd
is
like to
what.
say to Miss Kalistra, um, thank you, Miss Kalistra, for being on the show and speaking out. Oh, she hasn't disappeared. She's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
oh,
think we
that
lost
was
her
nice.
for a second, but she would be back.
She's gone.
You see, Ingram, um, she would be back. I think she's having some internet issues.
She'll be back.
But what we need to recognize as a people is that
Connection issues.
we
Yeah.
have just had the shooting and killing of the father of a young man who was shot by police officers who was said to be pursuing him for a joint. Right now, that gentleman. Let me just put back Miss Faria. Miss Faria, welcome back. Ingram just had a short message to tell you before you got disconnected.
Okay.
Ingram, Ingram, can you hear us?
She's back.
Right. Basically, he was saying to you, thank you for being on the show, and he wants to tell you to continue what you're doing. Keep standing for justice. And I was about to say that there are not many persons, because of events like these, that would have any sort of confidence in the system. You remain hopeful. I
Sure.
have remained hopeful for about the last decade or so, and many other persons have remained hopeful despite the fact that we have so many corrupt elements within the system.
I can
Although you
hear
have
you,
your
but
right
I can't see
to a fair trial was denied
Faria
at that assault in
because
Mount Rush.
it's
You
struggling
still
from
are
her.
hopeful that the situation that has unfolded at the hands of Senator Garuway would be dealt with according to law. I do hope that you get some form of justice, that the Royal Grenada Police Force, their prosecution team, will actually do what needs to be done, what we are paying them for. Um, we have seen Mr. Regis, Miss Faria, Mr. Regis, who was shot by a police officer because he decided that, well, I wouldn't say that he decided, I believe that the frustration and the lack of confidence, just the injustice of knowing that your child would have been shot for a joint, not for assaulting anybody or in the defense of a life or so, but being shot for a joint, that would actually make you act out of character. And that gentleman did not decide, but acted out of character. So, as we would say, he lost it at a very moment when he went to town. I understand that that gentleman found out or was told that his son's arm was going to be amputated, and he lost it. And he went and attacked um, three police officers, right? And that gentleman was shot. A victim who, at the afternoon of his son's shooting, went onto the television, onto the local media, and said to the people of Grenada and the people of the world who were viewing that someone has to put an end to the injustice that is happening in Grenada. To me, that sounds like the words of a gentleman who has no confidence in the current system that we have here. And it is very justifiable when we look at your cases and other cases that persons would have had. I mean, we had Mr. Oscar Bartholomew, who was executed by police officers in the St. David's police station for hugging a female police officer. He was executed. To date, 10 years later, December is going to make it 10 years, I believe, or 11 years. Oscar Bartholomew's murderers still remain outside. They have not been incarcerated. They are not serving any sentences for this gentleman's death. In fact, Oscar Bartholomew's mother, apparently, I believe about 6 years after, she hung herself because of the injustices and the corruption and the frustration of the system. And this is something that we are trying to urge all Grenadians. We are aware that we have been given no reason to have any faith in the current system, that changes need to be made. And Ms. Faria, this is why most recently I would have been speaking about civil disobedience, because at this point in time, it is well warranted. It is justifiable. Um, Persons need to take drastic measures so we would not have more citizens who are victims, like Mr. Regis, who decided to act. I will not decided again. I'm very sorry for using that word. That man acted out of character. There is no evidence supporting that that gentleman actually attacked any police officers or anybody before his son was shot by police officers for a joint. So we do not want persons to reach that state of frustration. Ms. Faria, I have taken an oath to uphold the laws and the Constitution and the public offices of Grenada. And I, just as Rosa Parks did, and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Nelson Mandela and all the other freedom fighters that would have put their lives on the line to ensure that people of our complexion, as they would have put their lives to ensure our people, right, would have equality, rights, and to living standards, right? I have taken an oath to exercise my right to civil disobedience. I have written the Ombudsman on October 22nd, 2020, after an almost 5-year stint where the Ombudsman has done nothing besides write letters and ignore and say how powerless they are, although they are collecting monies to ensure that citizens like yourself and myself and other victims would have had justice. I have written them on October 22nd
Well, oh,
and said to them, yes, Ingram. Ingram?
this civil disobedience, that sounds. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Right, the civil disobedience. I understand the frustration and not being just being blatantly ignored, and the government themselves are not even following the rules that are in place. However, for it to have a real impact, if you were to sit behind bars, just one person, it's one thing. But when you've got a group of people, when you've got an army of people, when you've got a nation of people backlashing against the government, they've got no choice but to change and fix up their ways. But if one man does it, it's one man, as we've seen with the Ghanaian that's in the prison cell at the moment, and we're petitioning for him. Would it not be better to have a civil disobedience on a national level where we're getting people to rally together, and not just one or two people getting arrested, but thousands of people being arrested instead, if that's the case? And united together we stand, and together we fall, as opposed to one man civil disobedience just getting locked up, and you're a person speaking out. Surely we need more people to stand together and come together with all the frustrations they have, rather than just one man or one lady doing it. Because I'm sure that Miss Faria's situation and your situation and many other situations, isolated situations, and all these people that have got a problem should come forward together.
Now,
and
Ingram,
then make their statements be known.
I understand what you're saying,
you can't
but
do media can't. Well, you can cover up one or two, but when you've got 100, 200, 300, 400 people knocking at your door saying injustice, what you can't spin
Ingram,
that. You cannot spin that.
Now,
Can't be spun.
given the current
And
climate,
then when people see that, I say, well, hold on a second. All people here, I've got all this.
right? There's a bit of issues with your internet, Ingram, but I heard I believe the majority of what you said, and my response to that is, given the current climate of corruption that we have in Grenada, I cannot wait. We have to lead from the front. I cannot wait for 5 people or 6 people or 200 people to join. We are desperate right now. We have persons who go to the general hospital and are dying because the Minister of Health has decided not to do his job. right? Given the excuses, we had Minister Nicholas Steele going to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique on local media since last year, December, and in January again, saying that he is aware that people are dying from kidney failure, and he is going to put in 5 portable dialysis machines in the General Hospital in the middle of February. We are now in December. We are almost in the middle of December, right? 10 months later, there's no dialysis machine in the General Hospital and persons are dying. And to make matters worse, we have a DPP, we have a Royal Grenada Police Force prosecution team that are a bunch of jokers. They are doing nothing. Now, there is something called negligent homicide that is no stranger to Grenada. And the definition for negligent homicide is the killing of another person through gross negligence or without malice. It often includes death that is the result of negligent operation of a motor vehicle, which includes the operation of a boat or snowmobile, right? So, in what it's saying here, the negligence of Minister Nicholas Steele has caused many deaths. He has a job to do, and he's not doing his job properly. Persons are dying. People are going to the hospitals. There's not enough equipment. There are not enough staffing because of the horrible conditions people are under. But this gentleman and his team, the administration that is here, that is affecting the lives of Grenadians, persons from Carriacou, Petit Martinique, of our people. They continue to perish at the hands of negligence and nothing is done. Not one minister has been suspended. In Ms. Faria's case, in under normal circumstances, if one was to make a report that they were assaulted, that person from whatever organization they would have been employed with, that person would have been placed on suspension until the investigation was done. And then the investigation. We just heard the testimony that the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, who stands in front of the television almost on a daily basis, who goes to the United Nations meetings, who speaks about gender equality, he chose to take the man under his wing and give him a tour of St. George's. Now, I have taken an oath to not wear my seatbelt. As I said, civil disobedience is a form of peaceful protest. It is something that we all should have to do at this point in time, right? Because civil disobedience is simply not following certain laws. We are not saying to people that you need to go and kill somebody or you need to murder this one or you need to go break houses or whatever the case is. I have taken an oath to not wear my seatbelt. I'm going to accept every ticket that the police officers give to me and I'm going to court, right? I am willing to do that because things need to be changed. We cannot have public offices where the Public Service Commission are telling persons like myself, victims like myself, instead of choosing to do their jobs what they are being paid to do, telling victims that they should seek asylum whilst they collect salaries, right? Miss Faria should not have had that experience that she has had, right? There are many more persons like Miss Faria. This is very unfortunate in them and it needs to change. And as I said, I already received 1 ticket from a police officer who was doing his job. I did not put up any resistance because I was not wearing the seatbelt. I did write the commissioner of police last week. Right, so on Saturday gone, I received a ticket, a traffic ticket for seatbelt. I wrote the commissioner of police sometime last week, and I said to him that I went to all the different public offices, the ombudsman, the integrity commission, the governor general, the prime minister, and all those other offices that are to deal with corruption and corrupt elements within the public service system. And they have done nothing. I have said to him that I do hope he uses his good office to investigate these matters and charge and prosecute these corrupt individuals who continue to take the monies of taxpayers and do nothing and refuse them justice. They continue to break laws. We have Oliver Joseph, who continued to break the Employment Act. We have Peter David now, a learned lawyer, who refuses to follow the laws of Grenada. And he's a lawyer. I mean, Miss Faria, there is a program that stems out of Canada. It is a Grenadian national, Mr. John Calise. And many times it has been raised on the program by Mr. Michael Batiste that we have Arlie
Actually,
Gill.
John is my cousin.
John is your cousin. Okay, so the lust for justice seems to run in the family, right? It seems to run in the family. You know, they have spoken time and time again about the conflicts of interest where we have Senator Ali Gill. What is Ali Gill is what again, Miss Faria? He's a
He's the
representative
ambassador.
of the state. The
He's an
ambassador.
ambassador to CARICOM and the OECS.
All right, for Grenada. So he's a
Mm.
state representative, and there, as Mr. Batiste has said, he goes into the court and represents persons who the court is against, the state is against. Now, how could that happen in a country that has a constitution? This is not some kind of caveman back in the day, 2000 BC kind of country. We're in 2000, the year 2000. And we do have laws. We have a constitution. We have laws that forbid conflicts of interest, even the perception of it. Right? Miss Faria,
Earl, Earl, let me cut you here. This is definitely a kind of fairy tale place that only exists in the imagination of people. Grenada has become a lost cause, and the only fixing of the country now is for the citizens to decide that they want a different life. Okay, the leadership of the country, and when I say the leadership, the politicians and the public officers, right? Because one of the most dangerous things to us in Grenada is the public service. I mean, the politicians have nothing on the public servants when it comes to raping and raiding the state and corruption. Everybody, they're all taking kickbacks. I mean, just the other day, Terry Forrest, although I don't agree with his decision not to comply with the enforcement order for a building he's erecting, and that is outside of the law in terms of distance from the road. But the public, the physical planning unit between 1990 and 1995, the Nicholas Bradford administration ordered a commission of inquiry into that. All of the officers there were forced to resign from their position, and the commission recommended that none of these people were fit to hold public office, and most specifically to hold public office in a similar or the same position, which is as in the Ministry of Planning and Development. But the Prime Minister has come back, and the chairman, the head of the unit now, is one of the people whom the commission recommended never hold that job again, because they found that the planning unit was so corrupt. Now, this is between 90 and 95. So this is 25 years ago, a quarter century ago, this commission happened. And now, last year, or early this year, was it late last year, early this year, we had the head of the planning unit again having to go on long leave, and questions about his involvement in a check that he received that raised the specter of corruption, issues of developments being approved that are violating the coastal regulations, as violating the setback regulations of how far you can build from the road. So 25 years later, nothing has changed in the planning units. In fact, it appears to be worse. So and several and the problems of the planning unit straddles different governments. Even the same NDC who was in power when that commission happened was in power between 2008 and 2013. So you see those public servants and that public service, you see that big wage bill that we are paying, millions and 20 something million dollars that we're paying to these people. They are not helping the cause. And the trouble is, there are aunts and our uncles and our friends, people that we know, and they are contributing to the mess that this country is in. Because let me tell you, if a chief technical officer and a permanent secretary and these senior people decide that they are going to do the right thing, they are going to hold the line for this nation, the politicians cannot get away with a lot of what they're getting away with. Okay? In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where the permanent secretary, the last one before he was moved, and now I understand that the one they have now is getting into a rocky situation because they're refusing to approve things. The prime minister sending instructions to approve a passport that does not come with a cabinet decision approval. The prime minister saying approve this passport for this person, approve that passport for that person. The permanent secretary must hold the line and say, no, I'm not doing it. And I believe in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that has happened a little bit. You have a public officer who is collecting money from foreign interests to pay for Grenada, the cost for running Grenada's embassies. The embassy in England and the one in Washington and the one in New York. We are not paying those bills. Foreign interests are giving us the money to pay, right? So when they are footing the bill, then they can tell us what to do with our foreign policy, right? But a public servant in Grenada is collecting the funds from these investors and these interest people in the United Arab Emirates and so on, and paying the money, right? So this money is we don't know. There's no accountability for this money that is being collected on behalf of the country to pay the expenses of our foreign missions, right? So it's a real, you know what? Excuse me for saying this, but it's a real shit show in Grenada right now, and they are shameless. They are shameless about it. You know, you remember that famous "Don't go there, Callistra" comment from the Prime Minister?
Yeah.
And people thought I was interested in who the Prime Minister was going to bed with or who he wasn't going to bed with. The Prime Minister's personal life is nothing new. It's nothing new to me, or nothing amazing, or nothing interesting. I wasn't interested in that. What I was interested in was the impact of the country, of some of the Prime Minister's private relationships. In the issue of no one has said anything about that lady for a long time. But my information tells me that she's collecting thousands of dollars. She's on multiple boards, right? She is receiving $18,000 as an advisor to them. Remember, she was a permanent secretary before she took a leave of 1 year to study. Now she's an $18,000 a month advisor to the Ministry of Finance. $18,000 a month. Plus she's on the CDB board, getting how much for board meeting, and she's on what board and what board and what board. You know, I understand there was a time when they were traveling back, and the Prime Minister was going on to Washington, and she had to come back to Grenada. And he ordered one of his aides to hire a plane. The plane was $18,000. Well, that person had a little conscience, so the lion said they can't find no plane. And she flew commercial to come back. $18,000 to hire a plane to bring one public officer back from St. Kitts, where they went to a meeting. So those kinds of things matter, not who the Prime Minister is sleeping with. I don't care about that. In the Caribbean, we don't care about who's sleeping with who. That is not an issue when in politics. We don't make that an issue. Otherwise, a lot of them would never set foot in Parliament. So those are the issues. What is it? What people's actions and their decisions? What is it costing the state? This is what we must be interested in, and people need to start minding the store.
Yeah, $18,000 a month, whilst we have persons who are hungry. Now, I understand that there was an accountant general, a recent accountant general, that was getting $20,000 per month as a salary. $20,000 per month. That amounts, those amounts of monies from a country, from a government that says it has no money to feed the poor. or provide school books and whatever the cases are for the people of Grenada, for our children. It is rather interesting, right? Those
Well,
salaries.
you know what, Earl, I have to run now, but let me just say before I go that it's about time Grenadians stood up for themselves,
Mhm,
The last line of defense is the people. It's the people's money, it's the people's business, it's the people's nation. People need to
mhm,
start remembering that
uh-huh,
you hire a group of people to work for you and mind your business. And just like in any other business, if they're not working out, if they're forcing your profit down, if they're
mhm,
mashing up all the equipment in your factory, and
mhm,
not fixing anything, then you fire them or you close down the business. Obviously, we can't close down Grenada, so we have to look for a change of staff and a change of management, and
mhm,
not just with the politicians but with the public officers as well. A lot of these people who have been there entrenched for a long time, they need to go home. You know what I say? Pay them their pension and send them home, and let's try to fix the thing. Wage, even the wage bill is too big. It's a travesty, and that we're actually
uh-huh,
paying for people to further mess up the country. So the last line of defense is the people, and they must hold the line. And I think that people, everybody keeps saying, oh, people are beginning to stand up. They're taking
mhm.
a really long time to get off their knees, as far as I'm concerned. And
Agreed.
what Grenada needs right now, the key thing is not a change of government, because any
Mhm,
government coming into power can mess things up as badly as it's been messed up right now. The reason why they're getting away with this is because no one is saying no. The people of Grenada are not saying no, and you're hearing all kinds of excuses. People who are too dependent on the handouts of the government, people who are too
mhm,
comfortable in the things that they have, that they don't want to lose it, right? People who are too afraid to speak up. Well, if we
mhm,
continue to make those excuses, one of these days there isn't going to be anything for you to enjoy, no matter how much you have now.
mhm,
The poor people, your children are going to start dying because they're not getting food to eat and they can't get any help in the hospital, and
mhm,
it's going to get worse. Standing up doesn't mean you don't like the government. If you really like Dr. Keith Mitchell, you might want to pull him back and help him to improve his legacy.
yeah,
That's what liking
yeah,
and loving somebody is. If you love him, help him to fix this legacy, because that legacy is seriously going south. And so far south that they're going to need real big chains to pull it back and have him go down in history in any kind of positive way of making a
mhm,
difference to the country. And sometimes for me, I'm a journalist and I'm supposed to stand in the middle and just report on the facts. But I'm also a mother in Grenada,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And so it bothers me when I see
mhm,
so many important things getting messed up: the health, environment, the economy, and all of those things that are supposed to serve us for the long haul getting totally messed up. And it goes to the kind of future that my children are going to have. And when I see that happening, I get very offended for my children. And sometimes I have to get on my soapbox like that. But I do
uh-huh,
have to run. Remember, everybody, Winston Garuway's trial is on Thursday. So all of those who support me and support justice, fingers
mhm,
crossed that the
yeah,
prosecution is not going to be shameless and brazen, and that they're
mhm,
actually going to try the matter the way
mhm,
that they're supposed to try the matter. Whatever the magistrate decides is up to the magistrate when he looks at the evidence. But what I'm
mhm,
expecting is that the
mhm,
prosecution is not going to grab the short end of the stick on purpose, and that they're going to do the
uh-huh,
best job they possibly could. I promise the nation I will be there early and on time, so that you are not
mhm,
disappointed as you were the last time
mhm,
when they threw out the matter. Um,
yeah,
and we'll see what happens. Okay, this going to
mhm,
court, and being brave enough to take a minister of government to court. I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for my children, and I'm doing it for the people of the nation, because I think that sort of thing, it matters. All right. So
it does.
Earl,
It
thank you for having
definitely
me on,
does.
gentleman from England, my fellow media man. Keep on standing at the front in whatever area of media you work in. It's been nice to meet you, and
Uh-huh.
thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah. Before you go, Miss Faria, we wish you all the best. Good luck. We would try to be there We do hope that we see other persons who are in support of justice, as you said, that they are there to offer some sort of comfort to you, even by standing outside of the courthouse, whatever it is, because what you're doing would actually determine the way that other Grenadians would be treated by those in authority. So, Ms. Faria, it was a pleasure having you here. All the best. And we do look forward to an update on Thursday evening
Absolutely.
of that case. Right? All the best. God bless you. All right. Take care.
All the best. God bless you.
So, Ingram, Mr. Forrester was unable to make it to the program. I believe there are technical difficulties that he has been experiencing. He was given a bit of short notice. But what I would like to say is that Mr. Forrester, um, most recently, about 3 days ago or 4 days ago, went on to the local media and said that the Ministry of Physical Planning came to his place and said that he built too close to the road, and that was an illegal act. Now, only about 2 years ago, the same physical planning, the Ministry of Physical Planning under Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, allowed a foreign investor to erect structures within 8 feet, in some cases within 6 feet of the high water mark on Grandans Beach. Now, according to the same Physical Planning Act, the laws that they are trying to use against Mr. Forrester for the building of his property, of that building on his property, that same act, that same law says that what Silver Sands erected on Granans Beach was an illegal structure and it should be removed. The law also said that not even physical planning could authorize such a structure within 65 meters of the high water mark. But Silver Sands, even today, remains where it is. So I understand why Mr. Forrester has taken the stance to say to the people of the physical planning unit, bring me to court. And this is the situation. This is what we call a peaceful protest against corruption and injustice, right? We are not partaking in civil disobedience because we want to break the law. We are partaking in civil disobedience because we have given the government sufficient time to do the jobs that they are being paid to do. We are partaking in civil disobedience because there are many persons who are dying, right? And who are starving on, who are left unemployed, who are left without justice because of the negligence and the neglect of the persons in authority. Now, Ingram, let me just show one thing here. Now, today, the 7th of December, 2020, right? The Minister of Opposition, Ingram, and I would like you to read the heading. I would like you to read the headline on that clip there. Ingram, can you see this? Can you see this?
Not yet. Get it on full screen.
Can you see it? Opposition leader in Grenada chains himself to table.
Okay.
Now that happened today, December 7th,
Not yet. Can't see it.
2020, in that
There we go.
expensive parliament building we have in
Leader
Grenada.
in Grenada changed himself to table.
Yes.
Well, I basically heard that. I heard Franca Bernadette. I heard Franca Bernadette resigned.
Yeah. But if an
But I heard
opposition
Franca
leader,
Bernadette
Ingram,
resigned.
yeah, that that makes no difference to the people of Grenada, honestly. There was no positives coming out under Ms. Bernadine's leadership. As you are aware, there is an asylum seeker who has been imprisoned at Her Majesty's prison since last year, August. Nothing was said about the gentleman, right? So, as I said, it makes no difference. But what we have here, seeing that an opposition leader would chain himself to a table in Parliament whilst Parliament is going on, it says a lot about the democracy. It says a lot about the voice that people can have in Parliament. The opposition leader, according to him, did such an act just so he would be able to speak in Parliament. Right now, I have
Wow.
also given made appointments. I have also called on the Parliament to meet with Mr. Michael Pear, I believe is his name, the Speaker of the House. I have tried making an appointment with Mr. Chester Humphrey, um, the head of the Senate, to let them know that we have persons in Parliament who are collecting taxpayers' monies, who are supposed to be representing taxpayers, to let them know that we have parliamentarians who continue to break the laws of Grenada, parliamentarians who would have taken an oath to honor the Constitution and the laws of Grenada. Peter David, Oliver Joseph, we have Nicholas Steele, and all of the persons that are there. And they continue to break the laws. I have made an appointment. I am still waiting on these individuals to get back to me. Um, as I said in Graham, there are many persons who justifiably do not have any confidence in the system, right? Ingram, it is very, it continues to be a sad day in Grenada, Carriacou, and Pitimati. It continues to be a very sad day. This is not a democratic country by any means. It is a very sad day. We have persons who continue to suffer under this administration, including myself. We have heard the cries of many persons over the years. We have heard the cries of Master Melvin Coutain, who has been trying his best to have a program for the youth in Grenada to empower the people of Grenada, a youth program. Master Melvin Coutain. We have heard the cries of Miss Willis, attorney at law, who is trying her best to get an asylum seeker through the proper process, the proper procedures, so that he could have a better life where he tried to escape from persecution. Ingram, it is a very sad day, a very sad day indeed. Um, I do hope that, that the civil disobedience would be the change that we need in Grenada. I mean, I have been to the United Nations Human Rights Department in Barbados. I have spoken to the human rights officer for the region and let him know of all the corruption that continues to happen right here in Grenada. Just 45 minutes or however long away, 2 hours away from Barbados, nothing has been done. Yet we are signed on to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We have a Ministry of Labor that continues to fail the people. Right? I have been to the International Labor Organization in Trinidad, but nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. And as I said, I have taken an oath to practice, to exercise my right to civil disobedience. I have written the Ombudsman since October 22nd, and we are now in December. The Ombudsman's office has not responded to that letter, where I informed them that if they continue to choose not to do the jobs that they are being paid to do, not to follow the laws of Grenada, that I would be forced to take such an approach, right? It was once legal to have slaves because of persons like Harriet Tubman. We are now free today. And as she said, she would have been able to free many more slaves if they had realized that they were slaves. That is a very true saying, Ingram. We still have that saying is still applicable, even today. Even today, it is still applicable. We can only do the best that we can do. I do hope, that changes will be made, that people will be taken seriously, that the prestigious offices that we have will not be filled with people who are mainly concerned with titles, such as being called minister or honorable, but persons of integrity, not persons whose only concern would be to have diplomatic passports, but persons of character, right? This is where I will end. Um, a pleasant good night to all the persons that have viewed. We will be back next week, Monday. Of course, on Thursday, we will be given an update on the case, the Commissioner of Police versus Winston Garuway. A pleasant good night to Peter Belfon. He has made a lot of comments. Um, One of his final comments is, as for that one, Ministry of Labor, hmm, one time, one day time is going to catch up with these wretched and disgusting ref- reprobates in Grenada, right? And that is very correct. Time. It's just a matter of time. We all have our lives to live. We have a destiny. As I have always said, I do thank the reprobates and the NNP government, for threatening my life, for victimizing me, because without that, I would not have known how powerful I could have been. Without that, I would have not known how many lives I could have positively affected. So there are certain things that we do have to go through in life. There are certain things that we do have to go through in life to actually see our paths where we are supposed to be. I do believe, as we say, the longest rope has an end, and time will tell. Things will get better. We need to remain positive, as Ms. Faria has said. The people, and Ingram has said, the people need to stand against the injustices. We should not wait for one of our loved ones or one of our family members to face that injustice. We are supposed to be our brother's keeper. Let us be our brother's keeper. Let us not say it, but let us do it. Let us make things happen. Once again, a pleasant good night to everyone. Ingram, thank you for being here. I believe, Ingram, what time is it over there in England? Is it 12 o'clock? Is it?
11:20.
It is 11:20. And we do appreciate you for being here every Monday with us, trying
By the
to
way,
a
just want to
better
make
Grenada.
a statement that there will be Grenada Matters T-shirts and cups, so people can start the movement and start wearing the T-shirts and the cups and the tracksuits. Money will go back towards the actual helping of people in Grenada. So that's the way we've got to start our own economic blueprint. So by creating our own, generating our own economy, we can start to help ourselves, and not wait for government to help. So next week I'll unveil those new designs for Grenada Matters.